was originally going to do Horizon Zero Dawn before I did this, but in all honesty, I think I need to do this first. Welcome everyone to Worth It or Not Reviews. I'm your host Scottish Warrior 92, and today we're going to be talking Mass Effect Andromeda. Now, firstly, if you're looking for an unbiased review, you're going to have to look elsewhere because I am fully biased. If you're new to the channel or if you've been following me for any decent length of time, you are more than aware of my history with the Mass Effect franchise. Mass Effect 1 being one of my all-time favourite games ever, Mass Effect 2 being that as well, and my sheer disappointment with Mass Effect 3 that I still don't like. I still don't like Mass Effect 3. And it's hard to do this review because this is probably one of the more challenging ones I've done in a long time, just because of the sheer history I have with the series. So this is going to be a little bit more of a different review than I usually do. I'm not going to edit this one, I'm not going to cut it, I'm not going to do that, I'm just going to talk. And firstly, let's get it out of the way. Did I have fun with Mass Effect Andromeda? And the answer for that is yes, I did enjoy playing Mass Effect Andromeda. The gameplay of the game is fantastic. It's probably the best part of the game. It is definitely better than the previous Mass Effect games. The gameplay is definitely where they put most of their time, it seems like, in this game. And I think that's no secret. The fact that if I did my research right, the team that worked on this was the team that worked on the gameplay for Mass Effect 3's multiplayer. So it does show that they did improve this, and the gameplay is phenomenal. That is probably the best part of this game. But that's not what you want to hear. You want to hear me talk about the stuff that everyone else says. Firstly, let me get out of the way, the animations. They're not awful, they're not bad, they're not as bad as everyone says they are. There are jank, there are issues. I definitely feel they probably could have spent maybe a couple more months on the game to clean up these animations, or even start them over again. But they're not as bad as everyone thinks they are. They're not horrible. They're acceptable. The game does also have its fair share of glitches, audio and graphical. I lost track of the amount of times I fell through the world. I lost track of the amount of times the textures popped. And that reminds me very much of a particular game called Mass Effect 1, because Mass Effect 1 had those issues. And I think it's all down to the fact that basically it's a new engine and they're still learning it. That's a major problem, unfortunately. But I didn't want to spend too long on that, because you know when I want to spend most of my time on this game. If you follow me for any time, I'm going to be concentrating mostly on the story and the characters, because that is where BioWare games shine for me. Let's get the story out of the way. It's Mass Effect 1 again. Not entirely. I know that sounds like an insult. I know that sounds like a bad, but it's not really. For me personally, I honestly cannot differentiate the story in this from Mass Effect 1's, at least the premise of the story. Now, they have done what I wanted them to do. They have not completely, mostly disregarded the events of Mass Effect 3 and have concentrated on Mass Effect Andromeda. It is a soft reboot to the franchise. If you're not sure what that is, a soft reboot of the franchise is when you basically are rebooting the franchise, but you're not scrapping everything. You're not getting rid of all the stuff from the previous games, previous movies, whatever. This is a soft reboot. It's trying to start fresh, and I will say that they have succeeded in that. There are some references to Mass Effect 3 and the ending. There are a couple of references to the Milky Way galaxy, of course, but that was to be expected. They can't exactly just cut it out entirely. That being said, the story, in my opinion, of Mass Effect Andromeda is probably its weakest part. That's not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's bad. It is good. But it's hard for me not to compare it to Mass Effect 1's story, because there are a lot, and I do mean a lot, of similarities. It's a similar story arc, a similar thing. But the one thing that I think makes Mass Effect Andromeda's story a little bit weaker, comparing it to Mass Effect 1, because I love Mass Effect 1's story, is the main reason why it's one of my favourite games of all time, is the story is fantastic. Mass Effect Andromeda's story is still good, but it definitely feels they were taking a lot of inspiration from Mass Effect 1, and they tweaked it and changed it here or there. That is to be acceptable in my opinion, but at the same time, the story feels incomplete. While Mass Effect 1, you could say, does feel the same. For me personally, Mass Effect 1, while yes, it was the start of a trilogy, it also was its own story. It started a story and it finished a story. It gave you a story, it ended, and it left a little bit of an open-ended ending, but it was still an ending. Mass Effect Andromeda tries to do that and just doesn't do it well, in my opinion. The story is still well structured, it's still entertaining. I wouldn't have beat the game if I didn't think it was still an entertaining story, but it definitely feels as though it's an incomplete story. The ending especially, it's not as bad as Mass Effect 3. It's still a decent ending in my opinion, but it definitely feels as though there's something missing from the story. It definitely feels like Mass Effect Andromeda is the beginning of an arc. That's what it feels like. It feels like it's Act 1 of 3. Now, I understand one other thing. I'm not hating on the game. I'm not saying it's awful. What I'm saying is, while I do agree with what some people have said, some people who are my fellow YouTubers or fellow people are saying that this is definitely a setup game. This is very much in the lines of that this feels like a setup game for future installments of the Mass Effect franchise, Mass Effect Andromeda 2, 3, so on and so forth. Whether or not we'll keep playing Ryder, we don't know. But that being said, Mass Effect 1 was also that. Mass Effect 1 was that, and it still had a beginning, middle, and end, while Andromeda feels like it's only the beginning. It feels as though that this is just the beginning of a story about to be told, and we're not getting the rest of it until either DLC or the next game. And that just makes the story a little bit weaker for me personally, in all honesty, and it's just my opinion and my personal preference. But in all honesty, what the story lacks, it makes up for in characters. I actually really like most of the characters from Mass Effect Andromeda, even some of the NPCs. Your main party members, of course, are very well written, very well voice acted, very well portrayed. They actually feel like different party members, and it actually makes me really happy that BioWare still has that ability to create characters. While yes, some people say that BioWare is a story developer, I've always seen them as character developers. They do good stories most of the time, but without good characters, the story would be nothing. And in my opinion, Mass Effect Andromeda makes up for what it lacks in story, for what it does in characters. Vetra, Peebee, Cora, Liam, Jala, Drac, they're all great party members and great characters. They are very well flushed out and very well done. Your Engineer Gil is done. Callus, your pilot. Suvi, your science officer. Lexi, your doctor. And various other NPCs who you meet throughout there are absolutely brilliant. They are very well flushed out. They actually feel like characters. And one thing that makes that very well is I think BioWare have finally done what I've been hoping they would do for a long time. And they've near enough nailed the party banter. There is actual party banter in Mass Effect Andromeda while you're on the ship. They are not just in one stationary position. They'll actually wander the ship. They'll go to different places. Yeah, they have set areas where they'll most likely be, but they'll actually go from where they're set up to engineering, to here, to there. They'll actually go over around the ship, and you won't just find them in the same place, which actually makes it feel much better. And they have banter, they talk with each other, they joke with each other. Even when you're in the party members, occasionally party members who are not in your party will radio in and just joke about it, which actually makes it really fun and makes it entertaining. The characters feel well flushed out, and I absolutely love most of them. My least favourite is Liam, personally, if you're wondering, but it just seems to be a thing with BioWare games. I don't really like the soldier member of your party. I didn't like, it seems to be the male soldiers particularly. I don't know what it is. I just don't know. I didn't like Caden. He was alright. He was just one great. I didn't like James Vega. I really didn't like James Vega personally. Nothing against Freddie Prinze Jr. I just didn't like his character personally. And in Mass Effect Andromeda, it's Liam. He's just my least favourite. He's still a good character, but he's just my least favourite. I never had him in my party. I had always had either Peebee, Cora, Vetra, or Drax, or Jala. And it's just something I think Mass Effect, that BioWare have done, that the characters are fine, the characters are well developed, the characters shine. And they make up for what is, in my opinion, a incomplete and lackluster story. It's just, it kind of just feels like it's hitting the beats one by one. The main villain, the Ket, they've done what they did they're trying to do what they did with the Reapers, in my opinion. The Reapers we knew enough about in Mass Effect 1 that we knew kind of what they were and knew that we had to stop them. Mass Effect 2, it kind of explored them a little bit further with the Collectors, and then in Mass Effect 3, we got something. I'm done, not going to vent. it feels like they're trying to do the same with the K. The K are introduced as this big threat, and they are a big threat in this universe, but they definitely feel as though they're trying to pull another Reapers. That's what it just feels like to me, even though they're introducing this other element of the Revenant technology, which is a race that was there hundreds of years before you arrived. It definitely feels they're trying to push the K as kind of like the Reapers, in my opinion. Not like universe destroying, that kind of stuff, just with how they're presenting them. Presenting them as this mysterious threat you do not know much about. You learn a little bit about in Mass Effect Andromeda, at least one particular enemy called the Archon. You do learn quite a bit about him, but then there's still a lot more, and there's even a little cliffhanger ending. I'm not going to spoil it, of course, but it feels as though they're setting up and it is the beginning of a new franchise, and I agree, it's still decent. They did a good job with that, but unfortunately they could have done it a bit better, because even Mass Effect 1, again, I know I keep bringing it up, but Mass Effect 1 is a good example of that, is that Mass Effect 1 had a beginning, middle, end to its story, but still left an open enough ending that they could have continued it. If Mass Effect 1 didn't continue, we still would have had a good story and it would have been fine. Yes, we would have been disappointed we wouldn't have got more, but it would still have been an open-ended ending that was still an ending. Mass Effect Andromeda doesn't have an ending. It doesn't. To me, it doesn't feel like it has an ending. It feels like it's setting up for more stuff, which I'm okay with. I want more Mass Effect. I'm happy that the series is continued, but it's just disappointing that the ending and the story was just lackluster. It just was not great. It was just okay. And if it wasn't for the good character development and the characters you met in this game, I probably would not like this game as much as I do. I actually really like Mass Effect Andromeda. I definitely don't feel like I wasted my money. If you think it's worth it, if you're a Mass Effect fan, pick it up already. It is good for the characters alone. Don't pay attention to the animation issues people keep bringing up, because a lot of them are over-exaggerated. It is still a good game. I would not have bought the steel case if I didn't think it was a good game. I would not be still playing it if I didn't think it was a good game. But it feels as like it's not a home run. It just feels like they've got to the first base, to use baseball terminology. I don't know baseball rules. I think that's what the rules are. They've not hit a home run. They've hit the ball, it's landed, and they've made it to first base. That's what they've done. Now they're waiting on the next player the next game coming up to try and do that home run or hit another one so they can get to base 2, and then the third game comes along and then they get to base 3, and then the fourth game, because there's probably going to be a fourth, they hit it, they get out, and they all go home. That's what I think they're trying to do with this game. And that's what I think the story is. It's they've got to base 1, let's see if they can continue this, and actually there's. I would definitely say that I think for the next installment of the series, Mass Effect Andromeda 2, whatever they call it, whether we're playing Ryder or a new character, I definitely feel as though they'll need to up the game a little bit and maybe take a little bit longer on the game. I should probably say what I think about Ryder as a playable character. I think Lore Runner described them best. I watched a few of his streams on it. I would recommend checking them out. The Lore Runner. He described them as the John Crichton, basically, from what's the series? Far Cry. They try and put Ryder across as John Crichton. They partially succeed. They don't do too good of a job at comparing him to Shepard. Of course, people got to do that. Shepard is a better overall character. Ryder is good, but the same with the main story. They haven't developed him enough, and they do drop in a few cliches that I didn't like, which I'm not going to spoil. But Ryder as a character is okay. Not great. I hope that they develop him further in Mass Effect Andromeda 2 or whatever they decide to call it. And just to finally make sure I make my point clear, I do like this game. I definitely didn't feel like I wasted my money. As I say, while the story is lackluster, the characters made it for me, and I did enjoy the game. I had a lot of fun. I wouldn't still be playing it if I didn't enjoy it. I'm making that clear. But that being said, I definitely want to see more, and I have no doubt that we're going to get DLC shortly. I would not be surprised if we got DLC within the next few months. Either an expansion to the story, add-on DLC. As long as they do it right, I have no problem with it. I will be buying the DLC. I just hope that it's good. And as I said, I will do a spoiler talk eventually on this game. I might do it in a day or two or a couple of days. I still need to think about how I feel about certain spoilers. But for the time being, no spoilers. go pick up Andromeda. It's an enjoyable game. I had a lot of fun. It is not anywhere near as bad as Mass Effect 3's story, but even then, it's still a fairly okay story. Other than that, I think that's where I'm going to wrap this up, and I hope you enjoyed this. I hope I made my point clear and concise. I know people were already asking me my opinion on Andromeda. I hope that I made it clear how I feel about it, and I hope you understand why I'm saying what I'm saying. Other than that, I think that's where I'm going to wrap things up now. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to let me know what your thoughts are on Andromeda down below. And I think that's where I'll wrap things up. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will try and get Horizon Zero Dawn's one up eventually. I'm just really busy, and this is the only time I can get to record, and I thought Andromeda took priority. On that, I'll see you all next time. Ciao for now.